Welcome back. This is episode 144. In this week's episode, I want to discuss 5 reasons why you should have a will. But before I get into that, I just want to announce that I've finally launched my online retirement planning course. It's now live, so that if you don't have a plan for retirement or your plan needs some updating, consider signing up for my course. I will take you step by step on how you can create your own plan for retirement. And you can sign up by going to retirewithryan.com. From there, if you click on courses and then click on Retirement Readiness Review on Demand. And as a special thank you to my faithful listeners, you can use the code RETIRE25 to get 25% off the cost until June 1st. So check that out. I'm very excited about this. I think you're going to find a lot of great information. And then I have a 30-day money-back guarantee that if you sign up for the course and you complete it and don't feel that it was worth your time and money, we will refund your money within 30 days, no questions asked. So creating a will is the cornerstone of everyone's estate plan. And there are many studies out there that point out that about 50 to 60% of Americans don't have a will. And many of us find the process of writing a will to be overwhelming, to be scary, or we just can't find the time. So you still should, however, consider writing a will. And if that's not motivation enough, then I want to give you 5 reasons to actually create your will. So reason number 1 that you should have a will is if you're charitably inclined. If you are someone who donates money to charity now, or you'd like to leave a certain percentage of your estate to a charity, if you don't set that up through your will, it's very unlikely that that will happen without you taking the steps to do that. So you can name charities directly in your will. You can name certain assets that you can leave them, and you can be very specific about leaving money to a charity. It could be a charity that you're donating money to now, or maybe a charity that you won't want to donate money to, when you've passed on. Reason number 2 is control. If you don't name who your executor is going to be in your estate, or you don't name who's going to get your assets, then there is a plan for you, and it's based on the specific laws in the state that you pass away in or where your property is located. And those are known as intestacy laws. Any physical property where you don't have a will, wherever that property is located, the laws in that state, these intestacy laws, will dictate where your money goes. And it will be to your family if you have family that are living, but maybe it's not to the family that you want or in the percentages that you want. So it's really important that you have a will so that you lay out what your wishes are. And this could be for your physical property and then for your non-physical property as well. Any investment accounts, any savings accounts, any stocks, any bonds, whatever state you pass away in, those laws of that state are going to dictate where those assets go if you don't have a will specifying where they go, or if you don't have beneficiaries. A lot of accounts you can use the beneficiary designations to name where those would go, such as retirement accounts, life insurance, annuities. You can specify beneficiaries. But for other accounts where you don't have a beneficiary on them, these could be bank accounts, real estate, investment accounts. If they're a single name, then not having a will would mean that the intestacy laws of that state dictate where the money go. So it is important that if you care about where that money goes, to make sure you take the step and you put together a will. The next reason would be if you have minor children. If you have any minor children or anybody that you're caring for, it could even be your grandchildren. Maybe you're caring for your grandchildren. If you don't name who you want to be the guardian for those children, then a court is going to decide that. And maybe it's going to be who you want, but maybe it won't be. But it makes things a lot better by naming who you want the guardians to be. And you could name somebody be the guardian, but then somebody else could actually be the in charge of the money if you didn't want to have the same person to be the guardian and be in charge of the money. So any money that you could possibly leave behind to your minor children. So it's important that you're naming the guardians. 4th reason would be legacy. You can create a legacy through your will. There is a lot of trust planning that you can do in addition to a will. We're not going to talk about that, but even through the will, it's possible to create what's known as a testamentary trust. And that's a trust that becomes effective upon your passing. So what can that do for you? Well, if you have minor children, there could be a trust created through the will upon your passing that could dictate what percentage of the assets they're able to take out, what the money can be used for. And you could also do this for non-minor children. You could specify that they can only take out a certain amount of the money until they reach a certain age. I'm not sure about every child, but I would say a lot of young people in their early 20s, if they inherited a large sum of money, it probably would be hard for them to manage that. So if you're worried about that, you could put some requirements in your will stating that they could only use the money for certain things until a certain age, and then they can get the money or it will be paid out to them at different points in their life. There's a lot of things that you can do. In addition to that, through your will, you could also help them with some asset protection. So you could set things up so that if this testamentary trust was created through your will and they leave the assets in the trust, they'd have protection from a bankruptcy, from a lawsuit, or a divorce. As long as they left the assets in the trust, then these assets would be protected. But if you didn't have a will and things just went through probate without you having a will, then you're going to have no control over setting up those types of trusts, those testamentary trusts, and being able to create a legacy or give this protection for your family. And the fifth reason to have a will is just simplicity, right? Do you want to make things as easy as possible for your family, or do you want to make them jump through a lot of hoops as far as it comes to settling your estate? So how this is going to simplify is that, as we talked earlier, this would help you name your executor, number one. So that would be an easy decision that you'd make. If not, a court's going to appoint one for you. It would minimize the costs. If you had things laid out in your will where things are going, it would probably cut down on the costs of the probate costs or even attorney costs or attorney's fees that your beneficiaries would have to pay for. It's also going to cut down on time, make it easier for whoever is going to be inheriting your assets or whoever's going to be administering your estate, just to cut down on the amount of time and effort on figuring out where, what your wishes were and who's going to get the assets. It's also going to prevent the likelihood that there's any contesting of your estate. Any estate can be contested, but it's probably less likely if there's a will and it's clearly laid out what your wishes were. And then lastly, just less stress on your family, right? Anytime someone passes away, it's very stressful for all those involved, especially if nobody's really sure about what your wishes were. If people don't know, what assets did you want them to get, even specific things like family heirlooms, jewelry, collectibles, right? You can be very specific in your will about who gets what, especially if you have multiple children. Maybe you want certain things to go to certain children. You can be very specific. So as you can see, there's a lot of reasons why you should set up a will. And if you haven't done so, there's a couple ways that you can do that. One, you can do it yourself, like a lot of things. You could go on different websites online like LegalZoom, wills.com. You can get your own will. You can fill that out. And then depending on the laws of your state, a lot of times it has to be notarized. That can usually create a valid will. You could also potentially, through your employer, if they offer some type of group legal program, you can sign up for that as well. And that could also maybe get you a discount on the cost of working with an attorney. And then lastly, you could just hire an attorney. And, it really depends upon, how much of a procrastinator you are. If you're somebody who's been putting this off for a while and it needs to be done, then probably your best bet is pick up the phone, call an attorney, make an appointment, get it taken care of. Whether you're going to do it yourself or enroll in a legal exchange program, it can further delay, your procrastination. And so sometimes just getting that appointment set can be very helpful. And then last thing with all this process is that you should make an inventory of where things are so that it makes it easier for your family to find out, where were your assets, who were your trusted advisors, any debts that you had. And you can do that through putting together what's known as a family love letter, an I love you letter. And I have an example of one on my website, and I'll put a link in it to the show notes so that you can download that. It's very helpful. You'd want to put that with your will in probably like a fire-safe box. At your house, you can get like a fireproof box off Amazon. That way, in case there was a fire, there was a lot of water damage at your house, your documents are still going to be preserved. So if you don't have a will, make it a plan to get one together and put one together so that you've got things tied up, and so that it really makes things a lot better for your family. So if you want to check out that retirement readiness review course, head on over to retirewithryan.com. And if you have a listener question that you want to have considered for a future episode, you can also leave that at retirewithryan.com. Have a great week, and I look forward to talking to you next Wednesday. Take care.